All right. Today we're diving into one of the most explosive, most world-changing political events of the 20th century, the Russian Revolution. And trust me, this wasn't just some local dust-up. It was a fire that would literally reshape the entire globe for the next 100 years.
It's almost impossible to overstate just how huge this was. The Russian Revolution didn't just bring down a dynasty that had ruled for centuries. It threw a radical new idea onto the world stage, a whole new way to run a country. It basically set the stage for huge global conflicts, like the Cold War. So, how on earth did it all happen? Well, a revolution like this doesn't just pop up overnight. Not at all. For decades, Russia had been a ticking time bomb. Think of it like a powder keg, where the social and political gunpowder had been piling up for a very, very long time. Yeah, this quote just nails it, doesn't it? The pressure was building from every corner of society. Everyone was just waiting for that one spark that would ignite the whole thing. So let's take a look at what was in this explosive mix. Okay, so this is fascinating. To really get a handle on the situation, you have to realize that while most of Europe was moving forward, Russia was kind of stuck in the past. It was an absolute autocracy, ruled by a czar who honestly believed he was chosen by God. You know what it looks a lot like? Pre-revolutionary France. And that comparison gives you a really good idea of the immense pressure that was just waiting to blow. So you had unhappiness everywhere. The Tsar Nicholas II was completely disconnected from his people. The peasants, and that's most of the population, were technically free, but they were crushed by debt for these tiny little plots of land they could barely live on. And in the cities, the new factory workers were facing just brutal conditions. We're talking 12-hour days, no safety, no rights. And if anyone dared to complain or organize, they were shut down fast by the secret police. The first real cracks in the system started to show in 1905. Now, this uprising didn't actually manage to overthrow the Tsar, but you can think of it as a crucial dress rehearsal for the main event that was coming. So what kicked it off? A humiliating military loss to Japan. That was the spark. It started with a peaceful protest that turned into a massacre known as Bloody Sunday, and that just lit the country on fire. Strikes brought the nation to a standstill. Even parts of the military, like the famous sailors on the battleship Potemkin, they mutinied. The Tsar got so spooked, he had to promise some reforms, like a parliament called the Duma, just to calm things down. Now, out of this chaos, something new and incredibly powerful was born: the Soviet. At first, these were just councils of workers and soldiers set up to organize strikes, but they quickly became something much, much more. They basically became a parallel government, a power structure that people actually trusted. And this idea, the Soviet, it's going to be absolutely central to what happens in 1917. So in the end, the Tsar took back control, and that new parliament, the Duma, didn't really have much power. But 1905 was not a failure, not at all. It showed everyone just how weak the regime really was, and it taught the people how to fight back, how to organize. The dress rehearsal was over. The stage was now set. Okay, so if 1905 was the warning shot, then World War I, man, that was the final catastrophic blow that shattered the old Russian Empire for good. The war was the fuse that finally lit that powder keg. Just look at this number. 6 million. 6 million Russian soldiers killed by early 1917. Russia's huge army, as big as it was just no match for an industrial powerhouse like Germany. The human cost was staggering. The war caused a total system collapse. The military was falling apart at the front. Back home, the economy was in ruins, which meant massive food shortages in the cities. Then you have the whole scandal with Rasputin influencing the royal family, which made them look terrible. And to top it all off, the Tsar made the boneheaded decision to take personal command of the army, which meant every single defeat was seen as his personal failure. So, all this chaos, all this desperation, it finally just exploded in 1917. But here's the thing, and this is really important to understand. It wasn't just one event. It was actually two separate revolutions, all in the same year. Okay, so let's break this down because it's super important to get this straight. First, you have the February Revolution. This thing was spontaneous, it was leaderless, and it basically kicked off when women started protesting for bread. And just like that, the Tsar was gone. But that created a power vacuum, right? In steps a provisional government. But they make one fatal mistake. They keep Russia in the war. And that leads to the October Revolution, which was a planned surgical coup led by Lenin and the Bolsheviks to overthrow that weak government. Two very different events. So how did the Bolsheviks, this pretty small party, get so much support so fast? It all comes down to this brilliantly simple slogan: peace, land, and bread. I mean, it's genius. It's a message that spoke directly to everyone. Peace for the soldiers who were tired of dying, land for the peasants who wanted to own their farms, and bread for the starving workers in the cities. It hit all the right notes.
When Vladimir Lenin gets back to Russia from exile, he has a crystal clear goal. He is not interested in setting up some kind of Western-style democracy. Nope. His plan was to give all power to the Soviets, to create a brand new type of country ruled directly by those councils of workers and soldiers. The Bolshevik takeover in October, well, that was really just the beginning. It kicked off a brutal, transformative period that would forge a completely new kind of nation from the ashes of the old empire. So the moment they take power, boom, the country is plunged into a devastating civil war. You have the Bolshevik Red Army fighting the White Army, which was this messy coalition of everyone who hated the Bolsheviks, backed by foreign countries. After 3 years of incredibly brutal fighting, the Red Army wins, and the old Russian Empire is officially reborn as the USSR. The changes were just total, absolute. The Tsar was gone. The old aristocrats, their power was destroyed. The church was stripped of its influence. Private property? Abolished, replaced by a state-controlled economy. Russian society was basically remade from the ground up. In just a few violent years, Russia went from a semi-feudal empire to the world's very first socialist state, and a brand new global superpower. And that leaves us with this final, massive question. The Russian Revolution wasn't just about Russia, was it? Its success created a model that other countries tried to copy, and a terrifying idea that other countries spent decades fighting against. It really set the stage for that huge ideological war between capitalism and communism that we now call the Cold War. So how did this one event in one country cast such a long, long shadow over the entire 20th century? Now that's something to think about.